A very good morning, students. Welcome back to online session on Java programming course. In our previous session, we have discussed the syllabus for this Java programming course. We have seen both CSC as well as IT syllabus, and we said IT students they are having a vast syllabus. I mean, more number of topics, more number of contents in their syllabus. So we thought of going with the IT syllabus only because ultimately we are learning some of the advanced concepts like JDBC, like applets, like servlets. Only these things are additional when compared with the CSC syllabus in IT syllabus. So I recommended the CSC students also to go through all these things. So we thought of going with IT syllabus only, isn't it? So whatever CSE students are learning, whatever IT students are learning, it is same with additional concepts in IT like JDBC, servlets, and the applets concept. So these three concepts are additional concepts in IT syllabus that also we try to cover in for CSE students as well. So instead of going in a separate paths for CSE and IT, we decided that we go in a single path and we try to cover all the concepts in IT curriculum, IT syllabus, so that it will satisfy both student needs. Okay, student belonging to CSE and student belonging to IT, it should satisfy. I mean, my class should satisfy the needs of both the students. Of course, learning additional concepts, it is nowhere a waste of kind thing for CSE students. You can consider these things as a bridge, okay, bridge to your upcoming courses. Like you're going to learn web programming, you're going to learn other technologies in your upcoming semesters. So these things will make a bridge. I mean, like servlet discussion, of course, it will make a bridge to your web technologies. Believe me. Okay, so quickly, this is your fourth sem IT syllabus, and I have taken the first unit. So here we have the object oriented programming principles, then we have the benefits associated with it, then we need to know the Java buzzwords, bytecode, the fundamentals in Java programming, then applets and application program development using Java, data types, variable, all the programming constructs like data type, variables, arrays, operators, expressions, control statements, type conversion, type casting. Then we started the concept of classes. So when you started the concept of classes, we are going to have objects, constructors, methods, access control, design super keyword, garbage collection, overloading, overriding. Then uh, yeah, we have another type of access control rules with the help of static, final, and nested inner classes. Then we also do the exploration on string class. I mean, what internal methods it is having. We do the exploration of string class. Then command line arguments, passing the input with the help of passing the input to the program with the help of command line. That also we will see. Then, with the discussion of inheritance, we need to conclude the first unit. So, that is inheritance concepts like types of inheritance, member access rules in inheritance, then use of super and final in inheritance, then polymorphism, that is nothing but method overriding. Okay, that also, then abstract classes and abstract methods, that also we need to discuss. So, all these things hopefully we cover in 10 to 12 sessions. I cannot pinpoint, I cannot give. So I'm expecting in 10 to 12 sessions, I'm going to wind up all these concepts. So quickly, let's just start the first unit for you people. So we need to have the Java introduction. Okay. So Java, we said it is an object oriented programming language. So where everything, believe me, everything we do in terms of objects only. Unlike your C++, unlike your C programming, in C programming, we focused more on functions, isn't it? We gave more importance to functions. That is nothing but logic. So one important difference between structured programming and object-oriented programming, I guess this I have explained when we started the data structures, when we started the object-oriented programming language, that is C++ for you. So we have the structured programming approach and we have the object-oriented programming approach. So here in structured programming, we give more importance to logic and less importance to data. But actual thing is data, not the logic. Logic we can have in many different ways, isn't it? Logics we can have in many different ways, but the data is unique thing. We have to give more importance to data. It took some time for the developers or for the computer professionals to understand this thing, that logic is the second priority but the data is the first priority, isn't it? See, nowadays you might have heard that there are rumors, and I mean, how far it is true we don't know, but many of the Facebook accounts got leaked. What exactly does it means? Facebook accounts got leaked means their uh, privileges, their user rights got leaked. Their username and passwords, their credentials for account got leaked, isn't it? So what are those credentials when we are talking about username and password? It is data. Is it a logic? No, it is not a logic. It is something data. So if the data got leaked, it is a mess. Logic got leaked, it doesn't make any sense because anybody can develop the logic, isn't it? Adding two numbers, anybody can add. Operation plus we know. But what numbers we need to add, the data, it is important, isn't it? So it took programmers or the developers or the computer professionals to understand the difference. I mean, to understand this difference, key data is having more priority than logic. But in structured programming, as it is a traditional approach, classical way of writing programs, there we are giving the importance to the logic first. We are focusing more on functions, then second preference to the data. But over here in object oriented approach, what we do? We give first priority to the data. We give first priority to the data and we try to protect the data as much as possible. In all means, we have different ways using which we can protect the data. So all those means, all those ways we are going to study inside this object oriented programming, like Java programming now. Then we have the second preference to the logic. Okay, the second preference to the logic. First preference to the data and second preference to the logic. But whereas in structured programming, first preference to the logic and second preference to the data. Remember this difference. This is a very valid point and this is a very important difference between structured and object-oriented programming. In your CPP also we discussed this thing, and again here also I am explaining this thing. You have to remember and you have to understand this difference. Okay, structured programming, object-oriented programming, the differences you need to understand. What is there in structured programming and what is not there in object-oriented programming. I mean, what problems we have in structured programming and how we have overcome those problems in object-oriented programming, that you need to understand, hopefully. So quickly go to the next slide. So Java, it is purely object-oriented programming, and here we do all tasks, whatever actions, whatever tasks you want to perform, whatever solutions you are developing, everything we do in terms of objects. So object is the basic building block of your object-oriented programming, we can say. Object is the basic building block. So without an object, it is highly impossible to write a Java program, an object-oriented programming language program. Hopefully you understood. So understanding Java's object-oriented development. What exactly does it mean? When I'm saying object-oriented development, what exactly does it mean? We need to understand. Object-oriented programming is a programming concept that works on the principle that objects are the most important part of your programming. So just now I have explained that one. So everything in terms of objects only. Without objects, there is nothing. Without objects, there is nothing in object-oriented programming development. So when we are saying, uh, when we are going for Java's programs, Java's program development environment, there also, in order to reuse something, because when we write the program, we don't do all the things from the scratch, isn't it? We try to reuse the already developed stuff, isn't it? We try to use already developed stuff which is there inside the header files, isn't it? Yeah. So here also in Java, if you want to write a program, we don't write from the scratch. Rather, we try to reuse the already developed stuff. So that already developed stuff which is there inside the standard built-in packages. Here we call them as packages, not header files, but packages. So we need to include some standard packages in our program so as to reuse the content which is there inside those standard packages. Hopefully you understood. Okay. So object-oriented programming development, it allows the users to create the objects that they want and then create methods to handle those objects. See, we said data is first preference, so we are going for object creation first. Then inside those objects we are keeping the methods. Methods are nothing but, as I said in my previous session, over here methods are nothing but our classes. Sorry, class member functions. Methods are nothing but your class member functions. So here a specific terminology we use in Java, we call them as methods. So methods are internal to your class. So when you create the object, it will not reside, it will not be active solely without the data part. So every object is going to have data as well as logic part. Okay, that logic part, how we are doing with the help of methods. Okay, so yeah. So next thing we have uh, yeah, object oriented programming. I mean, it is a very lengthy term to use every time. Okay, and when we study about Java, we many of the times we need to pronounce this word in our discussion. So instead of saying that complete word, object oriented programming structure, we sometimes call it as OOP. OOP stands for object oriented programming. So whenever I'm saying OOP, you have to understand it as object oriented programming. So object oriented programming, it is also popularly known as OOP. Okay, is used in modern programming languages like Java. So of course, when they are saying modern programming language, they are talking scenario, they are discussing about a scenario like 10 to 15 years back, approximately 10 years back. Okay, at that time the Java was having more popularity in the market domain, more priority in the market domain. Currently, as we know, it is like an outdated stuff. Java is like an outdated stuff. Nobody is preferring Java, nobody is going for Java, and I mean, even if it is outdated, to gain the knowledge of programming, we need to learn it, we need to study it, and we need to qualify it. Okay, so as I said, directly going to the advanced programming languages, it is highly impossible without the knowledge of basic programming languages. So we started from C, C++, now in Java, then go to Python, Perl, whatever you have in the uh, down the line or down the stream. Okay. So Java is object oriented. Okay. Why object oriented? Because everything is developed. I mean, whatever programs we write, whatever code we write, in terms of objects, only we write. So uh, see, in structured programming languages, there is a problem. what is that means? Whatever you want to narrate, whatever logic you want to write, everything you have to write as a single separate unit. Okay, so if you want to do this, if you want to do that, for all such things you have to write the separate code. Okay, there is nothing like a collaborativeness over there. There is nothing like security will be there in structured programming. So even if you try to uh, achieve some kind of efficiency over there, there is a possibility of making loopholes. There is a possibility of losing the structure. So that sort of drawback is there in structured programming. But when it comes to object oriented programming, it is everything we do like a binded stuff. Okay, it is very difficult to break the code in object oriented programming and to get the internal structure of our application, internal structure of our program. There are a more and more number of methods, more and more number of possibilities are there through which we can secure our data, secure our code from illicit access. Okay, so that comes under the fourth point. And the last point, to modify the data, you can build on what you already, the reusability. You can build on what you have, in the sense it is reusability. You have already written some sort of code and you want the extension. So whenever we are talking about extension, we should not start again from the scratch. So what we have already developed or what we have already coded, we can simply reuse that one and we can go for only the extension without starting from zero. We can only go for extension now. Okay, so likewise, this is what we do in object oriented programming. Everything we develop in terms of objects, and inside an objects we going to have methods, and using these methods only we can manipulate the objects. Then this object oriented programming, it is popularly known as OOP, and your Java, it is an object oriented programming language, OOP language. Okay, then object oriented programming structure, it is way better than structured programming structure, because in structured programming everything we are doing separately and there is less collaboration, more insecurity. So that's the reason we are going for object oriented development, where everything we do like a collaborative work by providing the security. When we are saying collaboration, there is a possibility of losing the confidentiality, isn't it? See, doing alone is completely secure because I'm only writing the code, I'm only aware of everything inside the what we call application. Doing alone is, to some extent, it is okay, but doing alone means I only have to work till the application development. Okay, so having collaboration, if I involve other people also in my project, then what will happen? There is a possibility that I may lose the stuff, I may lose the security, isn't it? I may lose the security, I may lose the confidentiality, isn't it? If other peoples are working in my project, then I have to make sure that I have to reveal only the things which should be known to others. Okay, if I don't want something to be known by others, what should I have to do? I have to make some kind of security on that field, or I have to make some kind of protection on that field. So this type of things are not there in your structured programming. When we are doing the development in structured programming, we don't have any kind of protection on the data. It is very easy that any third party, I mean any third person who is working on my project, he can easily steal that information. But whereas in object oriented programming development, collaborative work is possible by providing the security. You have to understand this one. Okay, so this is object oriented program development. So what are objects, what are classes? Many times we had this discussion. Once again I will give a broad, I mean a brief explanation, or we can say a broad picture to what is an object and what is a class. See, many times I used to take the example of that construction of a building. So this time let us assume, let us take the example of a car manufacturing unit. Okay, so for a car there are some basic things, isn't it? For a car there are some basic things, like if you're when we are saying a car, it is going to have four tires, four lights, four doors, okay, a steering wheel, and some speed, okay, some fuel consumption, seating arrangement, how many people can sit in that car, okay. So the engine location, whether you want your engine to be in the back or in the front, likewise these are the basic structuring things for a car. So with this basic structuring I can design a template, okay, I can design a template. So in that template I'm not making any specification. Understood? I'm not making any specification. I'm simply designing the structure of the class. It is more or less like a plan. Okay, it is more or less like a plan. So definitely in a car we need to have four tires, four doors, one steering, engine location, all these things I will put. So that plan we can call it as a class. Okay, we can call it as a class. So when we go to the model, I mean when we go to the specific car, so then what will happen? Everything will change. The car of the color, it is specific. The tires, it is, they are specific. The dimensions, the what we call the grip and all, they are specific. And doors, I mean if you want the door to be open from the front or from the back, that is also specific in a car. Okay, steering wheel, the size, whether it is automatic or manual, that also specific. Okay, light locations, engine location, everything is specific when we are talking about a particular car, because it is already designed, it is already available in the market, so it is specific. So such specific product, because from the plan only we got that car. So here the plan is nothing but your class, and that working model, working product in real time is nothing but your object. From where we got that object? From the class only we got, isn't it? Because we have a working, I mean we have a plan over there. When we are saying car, what is coming into our mind? That is your class. And when we are seeing a working car in the real time, that is your object. Hopefully you understood. So plan is something, it is completely static. We cannot expect. So when you have the plan on a paper, you cannot simply start it and you cannot simply drive it, isn't it? Car plan you are having on a paper, it is something like a class, it is a static entity. We cannot expect the output from that static entity. What is the output? Driving the car and reaching from one location to other location is the output from a car that you are expecting. So from the class we cannot expect that output, because it is only on a paper. The plan is only on the paper. We cannot expect. But whereas when it comes to object, you can expect the output. You can go to that real-time object, you can start that object, and you can drive that object to reach your destination. So this is the difference between a class and an object. You have to understand. Object is a working model, a real-time product. Okay. Class is the plan on a paper, a static entity, a passive entity. Okay. So this difference, if you understood, there is nothing more to explain on this one. Okay. So classes and objects, we had the discussion. So in our coding, we write the class and we create the object in our program. But when exactly the object will come into picture, in the sense when you execute the program. When you execute the program, what will happen? An object will be created and that object will come into picture to give the output for you, or to give the benefit for you. Hopefully you understood. So the core OOPS concepts. So there are different concepts, different object oriented concepts we have. So we call them as core OOPS concepts. So like we have a class, we have object, we have inheritance, we have polymorphism, we have abstraction, we have encapsulation and association, aggregation and composition. These 9 points we call them as object oriented programming structure concepts. Okay, OOPS concepts. So it is an LAQ, long answer question. Many times they ask this question. So just now I have given the explanation on a class. Class is a idea, class is the plan, class is the passive entity, class is the static entity, class is the what we call collection of objects, because using that simple plan we can construct as many objects as we want, okay, by simply changing their attributes. So one plan you have for a class, so simply by changing the color you can construct like 100 cars, 100 different colors. Likewise, or simply by changing the engine location. Engine is mandatory, engine is existing in the class, so engine is mandatory. So engine location that you can change, you can put in few cars you can put the engine in the front, and in few cars you can put the engine in the back. So likewise, engine location, few cars you can change by changing the door opening way. So in some cars you can design the door to be open from the front, and in some cars you can design the door to be opened from the back. So likewise you can do. So that sort of changes are completely acceptable when it is coming to the object point of view. Class is unchanged, only the object we are changing. Using the same class, we are constructing more and more objects. As many objects we want in real time, that many objects we can create by using the same class. Just by changing the properties, just by changing the characteristics, just by changing the attributes. So changing the attributes are nothing but changing the color, changing the location, changing the way of opening, all these things. Hope you understood. So class object discussion, brief discussion we had. So I don't think I have to explain once again these things. So then what is inheritance? See, this inheritance concept already we discussed in C++. So inheritance is something deriving a new thing from an already existing thing, or we can say giving an extension to an already existing thing. So for that to explain, let us assume we have a class. You have defined a class A, and from this class you want to derive another class B. So now what will happen? Class B will have all the properties of class A along with its own properties, isn't it? Along with its own properties. It is something like parent to child relationship. Okay, many of the times what will happen? The children will show the properties of their parents along with their own properties. So this mechanism we call it as inheritance. In detail we discuss, because it is a completely a separate concept we have in your first unit itself. There we discuss in detail about it. Okay, so this is when you do like this, we call this class as the superclass, base class, parent class, different names. And when you derive like this, we call this B as a derived class, subclass, child class, likewise. So this terminology, this everything we discussed in your C++. Hopefully you understood. So once again, I'm simply giving the revision over here. So quickly go and see. After inheritance, we have the polymorphism. Polymorphism means behaving behaving differently at different locations. So a person's life, I have given as an example when we discussed about this polymorphism in our data structures. So a person will behave differently at different location. Okay, different locations. So when he is at his working environment, he behaves like an employee. When he is at his learning environment, or in school, in college, he behaves like a student. Okay, when he is at home, he behaves like a husband, a son, a father, like this, a grandfather, like this. So how he is behaving, it completely depends on the time and the location. Okay, the person is same, but he is behaving differently at different locations. So that sort of thing we can consider as an example for polymorphism. One person behaving differently. Okay, poly means many, morphism means forms. or behaviors. One single person, many behaviors, many forms. So this kind of thing we call it as polymorphism. Hopefully you understood. So we write, so to achieve this polymorphism in our programming, we write one method and we make that same method to behave differently. Okay, by giving different codes to it. So how we are going to achieve that one, we will see when we exactly do in programming. And believe me, writing programs in Java, it is way easier than writing programs in C and C++. So the toughest one was the C++. The Because we introduced classes, we introduced objects in C, and we got C++, because it was very much what we call uh, um, tried to uh, have all the concepts from C. That's the reason C++ is very difficult to my knowledge. So next we have the Java programming that we are going to complete over here. It is way easier than writing programs in C++. Okay, when we go for execution, when we go for writing the programs, demonstration, there you will understand how easy it is. See, setting up the environment, it is a difficult thing in Java. Uh, of course, I will create a video, a separate video on how you can set up the environment for Java programming. Many people will argue with me over here that we have many IDEs, like how we used integrated development environments, Dev C++ for writing our C and C++ programs. Don't we have such an IDE for writing Java programs? Means we have plenty of IDEs like your Eclipse, NetBeans, your Edit Plus. In Edit Plus also we can integrate the Java compiler. So Edit Plus, many different things. Your VS Code, there also you can execute the Java programs. So many different versions of IDEs we have for executing the Java programs. But the traditional approach, without using any of the IDEs, just by using the what we call library packages, how we can set up the path in our computing and in our computer, and how we can execute these Java programs in our computer, that we need to practice. Believe me, that is the right thing, that is the right way of executing the Java programs without depending on any of the IDEs. Because what we do in IDE is simply writing the code and clicking on that play button. No, that's not the actual programming level. So to execute your Java programs, definitely you have to execute using the classical approach. So there you will understand how exactly the execution of a program takes place. So of course we will practice that one over here. Okay, we try to execute our basic level of programs in traditional approach. When we advance to your third unit, your fourth unit, your GUIs and other stuff, there it is difficult to do the execution in traditional approach. So definitely we need to depend on some kind of IDE. Okay, in both the ways we try. In both the ways we try to execute, both in traditional approach as well as using the IDE. So where were we? The polymorphism concept I have explained. Then the abstraction. Data abstraction means hiding the what we call unnecessary details, or hiding the important or the confidential details and providing only what is required. Okay, so suppose if a person with a bank account with an ATM card, he wants to draw the money. Okay, using an ATM machine, he wants to draw some money from the ATM machine. So, what knowledge he needs? He needs the minimum knowledge of how to operate that ATM machine. Operate, when I'm saying operate, it means how to interact with that machine, how to select the options, and how to get the money from that ATM machine. Do he need internal working of that ATM machine? No. He doesn't know what type of processor it is having internal to it, what type of RAM it is having internal to it, how those components are connected with each other, how his input is taken by that ATM machine, how the ATM machine is interacting with the banking server, and how it is transacting his amount from the banking server, and how the machine is giving the money to him. All those transactions he don't want, isn't it? What he wants, the money has to be deducted from his account and it has to be given to him. Okay, so the automatic teller machine, the ATM machine, exactly doing that one, isn't it? The best example to understand this abstraction concept is the example what I have explained just now. He only goes to the machine, inserts his card, and inputs his pin and withdraws the money and happily leaves that location, isn't it? Without bothering about how those things has happened internal to the ATM machine and in this real time world. All those things are known to some technical people, and those technical people, what they have done, they kept all those unnecessary details hidden from the end user. They don't want the end user to know all those things. If he knows, what will happen? He tries to manipulate, he tries to misplay all those things, isn't it? So that's the reason they secured all those things in a proper protector, okay, in a shielded cover, so that the third party will not damage that one, or the user will not damage that one. So that kind of thing, giving only the necessary details and hiding all unnecessary details from a specific party, is known as abstraction. Another example, another best example I can give you. See, we are using television sets. Okay, we know how to increase the volume, how to change the channel, program, everything we know. How to increase the brightness, how to change the color settings, how to change the audio settings, all these things we know. But how exactly it is happening, we don't know that one, isn't it? What type of signals our remote control is sending to the TV so that the TV is giving response, we don't know. So all those details are hidden from us, and what we know is the operating of that remote control. So this is data abstraction. Giving only the necessary details and hiding the unnecessary details is nothing but data abstraction. Okay, then the sixth one, we have the encapsulation concept. So what do you mean by encapsulation? Encapsulation is a mechanism through which we bind the data and methods together. So just now I said in structured programming we did a mistake. I mean, not we, the developers or the programmers, they did a mistake that they gave the importance to what we call data for uh, logic first and then the data. So when we are saying logic and data is your information, and logic is nothing but the functions. Whatever functions we write in our structured programming, those functions are the best examples for logic. So in object oriented programming, what we are doing, we are binding this data as well as functions together. Okay, and we are calling that as a class. So to get the functionality of a class, we are creating an object. So when you create an object, inside that object, we have all these things. We have data members, we have member functions. So here in Java, what we say, we will have data members and we will have methods. Okay, we will have methods. So an object is a collection of both the things, data members and methods. Okay, so encapsulation is nothing but binding the data and methods together like a single entity. That is nothing but your class. Class is the best example for that one. So binding the data and binding the methods together as a single unit, we call it as an encapsulation. An example is class. Using a class, we are doing that one. We are exactly achieving that one. Okay, then we need to know the advantages of OOPS. So when we are talking the advantages, definitely we have to do the comparison with something, then only we can get the advantages. So coming to this object oriented programming structure, so the only known structure prior to this object oriented programming structure is the structured programming structure. So we do our comparison. Okay, we do our OOPS comparison with structured programming so as to know the advantages of OOPS. Okay. Yes, using OOPS, it is very easy to understand and a clear modular structure for programs. So the logic implementation, whatever you have to do, and the modular programming, what you want to do, it is very easy in object oriented programming, which is very much difficult in structured programming, and data security is also an issue in structured programming. So yeah, once you have created the object in object oriented programming, that object you can reuse as many number of times as you want. That object you can reuse. This save, I mean, once you have created the object, no need to create that same object again to reuse it. Okay, so uh, something or the other, what you are doing over here, in the sense you are saving the development cost. So once you have created an object, after some point again you need that same object. So instead of developing that thing from the scratch, what we are doing, we are simply reusing it. So when you are reusing, no need to develop that once again. So we are saving the development cost. So using object oriented programming structure, at many of the points we are saving the development cost. Development cost is nothing but hiring a software professional and asking him to do the development of that object once again. So that sort of thing we are saving. So if this object oriented programming concept was not there, at that time what we have to do, again, if you need that same object, I mean, if you need that same code, again you need to redesign, again you need to redevelop that code. Okay, so likewise, then see, there is a limitation in structured programming, that only this much complex programs you can solve, or only this much lengthy programs you can solve using the structured programming approach. There is a limitation, but when it comes to object oriented approach, you can go for many different complex programming logics to be solved. There is no limitation on that key. You can solve only this program, or your limit is up to this much only. You cannot cross this limit. Likewise, there is no such limit. The problem of any what we call velocity, you can easily um, solve over here in object oriented programming approach. Okay, so there is no limitation, there is no bounding, or we can say there is no barrier to the limit. So you can take any type of real-time example, any type of problem into your computational world, and you can solve it using this object-oriented programming approach. So large programs are difficult to write, but if the development and designing team follow OOPS approach, I mean, another reason for developing big projects in object-oriented programming, why it is easy, in the sense there is collaborativeness is possible. Collaborative work is possible in object-oriented programming. It is very easy to collaborate. Collaboration in the sense involving more people, more and more people for the software development, for the project development. Okay, hope you understood. So modularity, that is nothing but dividing the big problem into smaller subparts and giving each part to each party, so that he will do his own development, and finally collecting that developed module and integrating into your project. So these kind of things are possible in object oriented approach. So that's the reason this technique is gaining more and more popularity. Okay, it also enhances program modularity because every object exists independently. So of course, objects will exist independently but will collaborate. So this is the plus point we can say in object oriented programming approach. So if there are existing independently, and if they are not collaborating means no use. No use. Again, lack of what we call lack of concept or lack of skill, we can say over there, if they are not collaborating with each other. So the major advantage how we going to get in the sense when the objects will exist independently and collaborate. So divide your big problem into smaller units, divide your big project into modules, modularity, and give each module to each team so that they can work independently, and solve the module and come up with a solution for that module. And once they are with objects for those modules, simply collaborate those objects. Okay, have the collaboration between those objects to get the final working product. Hopefully you understood. So that is that type of advantage, that sort of uniqueness we are going to achieve with the help of object oriented programming. So these are the advantages. Here I have listed the other advantages of structured program. I mean, basically whatever we have discussed in previous slide, that only we are going to put over here. The differences between the object oriented programming and the structured programming. See, when we point out the flaws, point out the drawbacks in structured programming, those will become the advantages in object oriented programming. So structured programming is designed which focuses on process, that is nothing but logical structure, and then data required for the process. As I said, the first priority is on data processing, that is nothing but logic. First priority is on data processing, that is nothing but logic, and then the second priority is on data required. So this is a big flaw, this is a big drawback. But in object oriented programming, which focuses more on data only, object oriented programming is designed which focuses on data. So data is the major part, primary part in object oriented programming. So the second point, if you read, structured programming follows top down approach. We write the programs, always the program execution will begin at the main function that we are writing before writing the user defined function. So always in structured programming, the idea is top down approach. At top level the program execution begins and it goes to the down level. So top down approach. But in object oriented programming, the idea is bottom up approach. Okay, bottom up approach in the sense, first we write the complete classes and related methods, then we write the main function at the end. Okay, main method at the end. So this is bottom up approach, object oriented programming. Then structured programming, it is also known as procedural programming or modular programming. So in object oriented programming, we are using the concepts all OOPS principles like inheritance, encapsulation, abstraction, polymorphism, etc. Okay. In structured programming, what we are doing, we are subdividing the big program into smaller functions. Using functions, we are subdividing. Divide and conquer strategy we are achieving with the help of functions in structured programming. Because these functions, when you are writing separately, there is less data security and there is a very loose collaborative facility, we can say. Okay. In object oriented programming, programs are divided into smaller entities called objects. So everything is an object in object oriented programming approach. So next, yeah, I have explained this many times. Structured programming is less secure. Security wise, it is very loosely what we call coupled. Okay, as there is no way of data hiding. It is highly impossible to hide the data. It is highly impossible to protect the data in structured programming. So that is the reason, if you involve a third person, if you involve other parties to do the collaborative work with you in your project, you cannot hide the confidential information from them. That's the reason structured programming is less preferred. But whereas in object oriented programming, it is more secure and data hiding is also possible in object oriented programming. Then structured programming can solve moderately complex problems. So we cannot go for very large scale complex problems. Only some moderately complex problems we can solve with the help of structured programming. But whereas using object oriented programming, we can go for not only moderate, but to some larger extent complex problems also we can take and we can solve them using object oriented programming approach. Hope you understood. Then structured programming provides less reusability and more function dependency. So the reusability mechanism, of course, we can achieve, but to some extent, not to a wider level. But whereas in object oriented programming, it is possible. So we can achieve the uh, uh, what we call code reusability and less function dependency. Okay. Uh, Less abstraction. Less abstraction means data hiding, and less flexibility. It is not at all a flexible way of programming. But whereas object oriented, it is more, we can provide more data hiding concepts, more abstraction, and more flexibility is also possible with the help of object oriented way of programming. So hope you understood these differences between structured and object oriented programmings. So in our next class, we'll see the history of Java. So from where the Java is incepted, I mean from where the Java got started, and today where we are. And after that, immediately we need to see the buzzwords. It is also an important LAQ. Okay, all these things we do in our tomorrow's class, inshallah. Thank you very much, students, and try to answer the questions what I'm asking in your Google form, in your attendance form. Okay, without the answers, I will not consider your attendance. Clear? Today also, after the class, I'm going to post the attendance. So be particular about it. So don't come to me after the class that I missed your class, I missed the form. Likewise, I don't want to listen such kind of minute issues. Okay, so be specific, try to post the attendance on time. So after completing the class, additional 15 minutes I'm giving for posting the attendance. After that, no extra time. Please do post the attendance within the provided time only. Thank you very much, students.